this is Navniit. Today getting a chance to have a chat with one of the popular Member of Parliament, Mr. Chris Bowen. Mr. Bowen, welcome to the show.
Very good to be back.
How do you view the future of Asia, vice versa, Australia?
Well, this is one of the big challenges and opportunities for Australia. We need to dramatically lift our economic engagement with Asia, with India, with China, with Indonesia, with all the countries of Asia. Frankly, we pay it lip service at the moment, but we don't make enough of our great Asian diasporas in Australia. And tomorrow, I'll be announcing on Friday, Labor's future Asia engagement strategy that we will implement in office, which will be a step change in economic engagement with Asia.
Ah, lovely. So do you think enough is being done at the moment to strengthen the relationship?
No. We are paying a lip service as a country, and we can do much, much better. We are not teaching enough Asian languages in schools in Australia. Hindi, Mandarin, Indonesian should all be much taught more in Australia than they currently are. More Australian young people and older people should be learning those languages. And we're not doing enough with the diaspora, the Asian diasporas in Australia, to utilise the skills and experience of those communities for the national interest.
As you said, you're going to announce it on the Friday, but I just want to have a sneak peek of it. What is the roadmap to make the relationship more stronger?
Well, what we'll do is we'll have a framework called Future Asia, which will be the framework under which we'll examine all policies on Asian engagement. We'll be announcing some now, many later, before the election. But we'll be talking about Asian languages in schools, we'll be talking about diaspora, we'll be talking about people of Asian expertise on boards and senior management in Australia. And we'll be talking about working more closely with our foreign counterparts in things like the G20 and APEC.
So what will be done to encourage more people of Asian descent to join the Australian boards?
Well, that's one very important point. We have very low utilisation of people with Asian language, background or experience on boards. So what we will do is we'll work with the Australian Institute of Company Directors. We'll allocate $3 million to pilot a mentoring program. We've done this with women on boards. It's had some success. We need to lift the number of people who understand Asia on our boards.
Will the future Asia incorporate military and the counter-terrorism with India?
Well, certainly working closely with India is an important priority for us, and I mentioned India several times in my speech. I've been to India twice as Shadow Treasurer. I'll be going back again in January next year. Certainly working very closely with the Indian government will be a priority for us in government, working on many things together. I see India as the fastest growing major economy in the world, as being very, very important partner for Australia going forward. In terms of defence and terrorism, of course, we would obviously continue to work with partners like India on matters such as that.
What's your stance on the global terrorism overall? Otherwise?
Well, all countries need to work together very proactively to defeat this scourge. We can't accept it as the new normal, that there will be terrorism in our lives. We have to defeat it. We work closely with many countries in Australia, particularly in our region, Indonesia, which is a key partner for us in tackling terrorism. But we need to work with friends and allies wherever we can find them.
Moving away to a different question altogether, what's your opinion on the current parental visa policy? And the second is, will Labour Party make any changes to that?
Well, we'll certainly examine all those policies in the lead up to the next election. Shane Newman, our Shadow Minister of Immigration, is a very good Shadow Minister. The parental visa that I introduced when I was Minister of Immigration was suggested to me by members of the Indian community to say, why don't we have 5-year parent visas for visits?
That's right.
Which I introduced, and that was a suggestion from the community, so you don't have to apply every single visit. In terms of the residential visa, obviously the waiting period is something which I know annoys many people, or it concerns many people. 15 to 17 years to wait, and many people say, I can't wait that long. But it's not an easy problem to fix, but certainly we'll examine all those policies in the lead up to the next election.
We look forward to that.
And we look forward to community feedback, like we did with the parental visa, the 5-year one, is what we could do better.
Like, there are a lot of international students coming from overseas, studying here, and then going back to their home countries as well. There are a lot of Indian students who have come here, studied and settled here, but at the same time, a lot of them have gone back to the home country like India and other places. How does the student who studied in Australia from India will benefit Australia once they complete the studies and go back to India?
Well, they benefit us while they're here, point one. Point two, we have no problem with them going back home because they're helping with the development of India, helping their homeland, they're a friend of Australia, so that's a good thing. We hope that the skills they learnt in Australia are very useful to them back in India. How, in the long term, how do they develop Australia?
Yeah, how would they benefit Australia?
Benefit Australia?
Yep.
I think if they had a good experience here, they'll be lifelong friends of Australia. And they'll become very senior in business, in government. And I find when you meet with somebody who may be a cabinet minister and they say 20 years ago I went to university in Australia, they understand Australia and they're good friends of Australia as a result.
Okay, so that's a positive. So we
Yes.
look forward to have people who stay here or go back. They'll be
Doesn't
still,
matter, whatever
they'll be
suits
still
them,
benefit
they're
Australia.
benefiting Australia, I believe.
So how do you see the relationship with the Indian community in Australia as far as the future goes?
Well, I think we need to do much more together. I think that one of Australia's great assets now is our Indian-Australian community. It's growing very fast. That's a good thing. But again, I say in the speech that we're not doing enough together to lift Indian-Australian engagement. We have all this expertise now in Australia. It's one of our largest sources of migrants. And we need to think about how we can take the Indian diaspora, work with it, and put it to work to improve Australia-India relations. For example, we have trade missions sometimes to India with no Indian Australians on it. Now that's crazy. We need to think about those things as well as we talked about before, lifting the number of Australians of Indian heritage and other countries from Asia on boards with experience.
So the next elections are not too far, probably a year and a half.
We don't know. Could be closer, could be further.
So how are you prepared? How comfortable are you with the preparation that's going on within the party?
We're ready. I mean, we don't take anything for granted. We've got to earn the respect and trust of the Australian people, but we're ready. The Prime Minister wants to call an election tomorrow. Bring it on. We're ready.
Thank you so much. But before I wrap up, we have a Fiji Day coming up in another 10 days' time, and then the Hindu festival Deepavali coming up. So would you be kind enough to give some of the message to our listeners for Fiji Day as well as Deepavali?
Well, happy Fiji Day to all our listeners. It was this time last year I was in Fiji, so a country that we all know and love, and particularly love the Australian Fijian community. For Deepavali, happy Deepavali to all the viewers. I'll be holding my normal annual Deepavali in Greystanes in Pemaway this year. It's a wonderful festival of the lights which I love celebrating and wish all participants in all the celebrations all the very best.
Ladies and gentlemen, so this was Mr. Chris Bowen. I had a wonderful time chatting to them. Thank you so much.
My great pleasure.
Thank you.